Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, and we're going to leave it right there for a moment because there are some other things I need to go over first. Sometimes, no matter how much you enjoy doing something in any form of entertainment, the business component to it as well. And unfortunately, during this last period of contract negotiations at Pop Culture Retro, some demands were made, such as hourly foot massages, color coding M&Ms, and an intern whose sole responsibility would be to read bedtime stories to his dog were just not feasible. So with great sadness, we're going to have to recast the part of co-host. Now, in seriousness, though, I'm being joined by two great people today, and we're going to talk to both. But the reason for that, as I alluded to, is this is Ike Eisenmann's last show. I won't say the last show that he'll ever appear on, because he's welcome back anytime. And I'm going to talk more about Ike soon. But I also want to say that once Ike told me that he's stepping away, there was genuine sadness on my end. And I truly enjoyed working with Ike. We had become friends prior to doing the podcast, so it was sincerely a joy to get to do this with him over the 3 years and 160 plus shows. We're still going to be doing other projects together, which I'm happy about, but I just want to say that I fully enjoyed the time doing the show with Ike. Now, for the other part of this, and once Ike decided to step away, I started to think about who would I enjoy doing the show with. And one of the things that I always thought made it successful as well as fun was the dynamic of someone who had been on the inside to offer perspective, paired with someone who at least had a semi-knowledgeable, fan, loved all things pop culture. So again, it really amounted to who would this be fun to do with? And once Cher said no, I'm kidding. So with that, but no lie, and I swear, I'm not just saying this, but the very first name that I thought of, where I could see myself doing this, was someone who I'd already gotten to know a little bit, and we worked on projects together a little bit. So I said to Ike, what about Moosie Drier? And Ike said, perfect idea right off the bat. And to reaffirm all of this, and again, no lie, I swear this is all true, I said it to a couple of people that I could be stepping away. I said it to like my family and a few friends, and without mentioning who I had in mind. And my family said, what about Moosie? And here's a name drop also, who's become a fan of the show and as well as a friend. I mentioned to Kevin J. O'Connor, who has, like I said, become a friend. And he said right away, why don't you ask Moosie? So again, it was perfect symmetry with everything. And once I asked Moosie and he was assured that he'd receive top billing, I was grateful that he said yes. So after speaking for way too long, please help me welcome Ike Eisenman and Moosie Drier. Guys, hello.
Hello. So,
hey,
I gotta say, Ike, and I'm sure I'm speaking for pretty much everybody. I know you guys have thousands of subscribers and all that stuff, and Ike has so many fans, and this is surreal. And I feel like, back in the day, somebody bought these amazing Broadway tickets to see Richard Burton, and then the announcement comes on that there's the understudy. They're going to tune in, and it's going to be me. And that's, and I'll hold down the fort for you until Robbie Risk takes my place.
There you go.
I think that's in season 7.
It's nice to know there's a laundry list of like former child stars that could actually step into this place. But I got to tell you, first of all, it saddens me also just because I've had a great time doing this. We've had so many great guests and we've talked to so many incredible people, and I've had a blast at it. And I certainly appreciate everyone's understanding that it's just become a time challenge thing for me. And there's some other things I need to pay attention to like my retirement, that I have been filling the space with and the time with. But I couldn't think of a better person. I mean, when Jonathan mentioned it, it was just like, well, hell yeah, absolutely. I think Moosie would be outstanding. So I think you guys are gonna have a great time, and can't wait to see what guests you guys have on. And I think it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, it's such an honor, Ike, I have to say. Oh, and speaking of guests, yeah, we have our next 3 guests are lined up. We have Tom Cruise, Jodie Foster. That'll be fun. So, honestly, and I know we're just gonna, listen. I'm gonna kiss butt here for a moment, and then we'll go on to whatever we want. And it's shameless, but Ike, and I mean this. Like, I am attracted as friends or whoever to smart people, because opposites attract. And you're not just a likable person who I've known my whole life and so talented. I mean, that's unquestionable, but like, you're one of the handful of people. I'm not kidding. He's a smart person. And I hang on to your words because you're very wise. You're not like the rest of us ex-child actors. You got the smarts, my friend. And I'd say, listen, because I'm a fan of this show. I watch this show. I've seen nearly every episode, if not all. But I'd say we're gonna miss you. But like, I mean, first of all, your ears will probably always be ringing because we're gonna be talking about you a lot, and I'm sure. And this isn't the end.
No.
Okay, we're not all okay.
Well, I did have a couple of things that, like, I didn't make this like usual format, doing all this research and questions, but I have more freewheeling. But I do have some questions for both of you. And I went back and watched Moosie's show when you first appeared on, and I couldn't believe that I didn't ask this then. How did the two of you become friends to begin with?
I feel like, I don't know. For me, I feel like I've just known you my whole life. It's that just the association of, okay, we're in the business together.
Yeah.
And I think we're only a couple years apart in age, Moosie. I know I'm a couple years older than you. So there was clearly a block of time, when you're a child actor, everybody's got a category, right? There's men, women, old, young. With kids, it would be like, there'd be an age range that would be called in for auditions. And you and I would probably, I don't know, by the time I was 9, you were 7, so you're still a little too young to be in my category. But as we both grew older, we got closer together, and it seemed like all of a sudden I started seeing you on more and more and more auditions. And I've been watching you clearly for years. And, there were only 2 or 3 other child actors that I felt nervous about whether or not I would get the part if I saw them at an audition. You were one of them, because it was like we were both a choice. Like, we were 2 very different choices in terms of how people cast stuff. Yeah. But it was just seeing you all the time, and then the other people we saw all the time. When we sort of crossed over into, I guess knowing each other outside of that part of the business, I sort of feel like that happened when we reconnected for ADR. I mean, that was kind of it, because when I was working with the Mad Dogs and we were actively trying to find more people, for the group, and I started thinking about, well, gosh, who are the, going through the list in my head of who I thought would be great, and your name came up, and I don't even remember how I got in touch with you. It was probably just, it's like, everybody knows each other, the business was small back then, and that's kind of how it is now. And that's my recollection. I don't know if you remember something different, but I just feel like I've just known you my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. So you talk about the Brad Savages and the Robbie Rist and all the others, I happen to have worked with them also, as well as being friends in, real life and all that stuff. You and I had never worked together until we started doing a bunch of voiceover work as adults. We never worked together as child actors.
No, we never did.
But I think it's just auditions. And I may have mentioned this to you one time. This is such a random memory, but of course I knew who you were. And I was always, I a fan, and you know, you beat me out on that one. My dad lives in a downtown hotel, which
I
I'll
was going to
never.
discuss that too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. Um, I have a random memory of it pouring rain, and we both left an audition roughly at the same time. And at a red light, you and I like rolled down the windows because we saw each other. And you know, you like I get back to you being smart. You were smart. I was more like of a jock kind of guy. I always wanted to play baseball, and the Dodgers were in some kind of like World Series game, some big game. And I said, "Hey, Dodgers are up 7-5 or something." Like so it was a baseball reference to you, and that's just a random memory I have of you. We were both being driven around by others. We were too young to drive at that time, but I think it was well before Escape from Witch Mountain. But I mean, I remember seeing you. Maybe we talked about this, but you did roles that were, you know, much more in depth and more layered than just, hey, look, he bought me a balloon. Okay, go put it away in your room, and like just to show the audience that they have a kid in the family or whatever. You had like substance. You know, they gave you roles with substance, and I always admired that. I always
You
strived.
did see each other at auditions. You both remember seeing each other.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then we went to the same high school. Again, we're a couple years apart. And at any time you ever want to repeat the words again that I was too young for anything, please go ahead. I could now in our
No,
goal.
you went to Grant High School?
Yeah. I went to Grant High School, and
That's so weird.
yeah, but so my year I graduated 82.
Right.
And you were
80.
80? Yeah.
Yep.
So I was a scrub when you were a senior. And,
Yeah.
you know, your experience was probably a lot like mine. I went to these schools, but not all the time because we're working, you know,
No,
I
yeah.
wasn't in school all the time. In fact, I really wasn't by the time I was a senior. And it wasn't just because of work. It was because I was at the beach. But yeah,
I don't know if you probably don't have any recollection of this, but my favorite story, because literally I worked too much and I was too well known, and I was sort of like, you know, I was that loner kid that had, this is not a sad sack story, but I really didn't have any friends in high school. I had one friend that I kind of hung out with, and I just didn't hang out with people. So my awareness of what was going on really with other people in high school was extremely limited.
Right.
But for some reason, and I think it was only because of my notoriety, I was nominated for Homecoming King, my graduation year, which was this most bizarre thing in the world to me, because I thought, I don't know anyone. I don't do any of the social stuff. I'm not in any of the clubs. I don't go to any events. So I was this one strange oddball choice for a nominee for home. I didn't win, which I was grateful for, but it was my strangest, most awkward high school experience. But I literally don't remember you being there. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was there. I do remember you there, and I remember you know, you would draw you or something.
Yeah, I designed the yearbook cover for 1980 and did some illustrations. I actually drew the mascot for Grant High School for that year, the Lancer. It was like the little knight on the horse with this lance, and I drew that and some other stuff, because I was very very heavy into art, well, for a long time. And so I got tapped to do a bunch of stuff for the yearbook. Yeah.
That's crazy. I have that yearbook. I got to dig that out and that's Ike's work. Send it to you. Have you autograph?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask though, other than my dad lives in the downtown hotel, which we've discussed, you know, how much it hurt you, Moosie. Now, were there parts that you do remember like losing to each other?
You know, I'm sure there was. I don't know if I can recall any specific roles. I don't think I was probably actually I probably auditioned for Escape from Witch Mountain, which I'm still waiting to hear. Uh, but I think the reason why I don't know or don't remember anything is because it genuinely wasn't that. There were only a few that I really wanted, but like it wasn't life or death to me if I didn't get a role, like it was, I'm not trying to say that in a pompous way, like I'll just get something else. It was just the way it was. I think you understood it when you put into the industry at the age 5. I can't remember what age you were, Ike, but like when that's what you swim in and that's all you better grasp early that you're not going to get everything, like yeah, and you can't take it personally because there's so many other factors. There's so many. Maybe I had a horrible audition, but also maybe I had a great audition. But the dad has dark hair. There's things you can't take personally, and also like with Ike and with Lance Kerwin, if I lost a role to those guys, I'd probably say, of course I did, because they're so good. It wasn't. So I don't really remember other than my dad lives in a downtown hotel. And the reason why I going back to the roles that had substance. I mean, Ike's character had to take the bus downtown to see his divorced dad, or recently separated. That was something, that was more than, hey, look, I got a balloon. I don't know why I keep making the balloon reference, but I think it's because it was a line I had in a Jack Lemmon movie. Of course I lost out to Ike Eisenman. I'm sure I said that, I'm sure that's what I thought. On to the next.
I'm sure I lost out to you too. Cause I mean, look, we were a small group of child actors. When I try to rattle them off in my head, the ones who worked consistently was probably a half a dozen at the most. So we all auditioned for everything. And also there's with the casting directors all knew us. We knew all of them.
Right.
And I have no doubt, look, there was no question of the talent of our group. And it's taken me a long time in my adult years to give myself credit for that, looking back and watching some of my work and finally being able to say, yeah, you know what, I was pretty darn good, even by my standards today, which are pretty darn high. And Jonathan knows that, especially when we have to do our forgotten films. But we were all very, very talented, and yes, Lance and I did work together on a
Duffy Moon.
The Duffy Moon thing. Yes, we worked together on that. And look, Lance was the other one that intimidated me. I mean, he did incredible work, incredible work. And he got, if what you say is accurate, and I was, landing some of the more, like deeper roles. Well, Lance was that whole other level deeper. He could really communicate the angst, and he could cry, and he could wind himself up in ways that I couldn't, and I knew I couldn't. My biggest fear, actually, I'm going to get back to my point, but my biggest fear in getting cast in anything was that I was going to have to cry, because I could never cry. I was never able to do that, and thankfully, I was never tasked with it. But like watching Matthew Labrato, the guy who you say, roll sound and action, he starts, the waterworks starting them, the pain is there. So, but anyway, I guess the point is, we probably all audition for the same stuff all the time. And no, you got to let it go. I used to say that was my biggest complaint about the business. And one of the things that drove me away from it eventually, in terms of on camera, was it's a 95-5 rule. You audition for 95 things, and then maybe you get 5. And that's an exhausting process.
Well,
and one of the other things, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's no, I should let, but that's exactly the question. The next question that I had in mind, having never done this, and so I've been curious as kid actors, is it difficult not to show that emotion? I mean, because you mentioned Lance Kerwin or the Labratos. You said you came from such a, and back in your day, there was such a shallow talent pool that was drawn from. But you see these people all the times, Labratos, Robbie Risk, Brad Savage, and later on, we had on. I remember even as a kid seeing like Nino Palouse in everything at that point. So is it difficult not to show like resentment at all and saying like, why is this kid getting everything? Is it difficult? And I know you're saying that you have to let it go, but there's got to be a human element in it as well.
Well, look, Moosie and I both worked all the time, so it's not like we were, only. It's not like we were picking up the dregs when the other major actors didn't get jobs and then we got something. So I was always disappointed when I didn't get something because I wanted to work, but I had to let it go because Moosie's right. That's one of the first lessons you learn, and everybody tells you that because it'll drive you nuts. If you invest too heavily in every single, you have to invest in the audition, but then when you walk out, you got to let it go and you got to move on there because you're not going to get everything. And, right. You want to definitely enjoy the stuff you do get, but you can't let it eat you up.
Right.
You can't. It's part of the lesson and part of the discipline of it, really.
Yeah.
In a way.
And
but I also think that, sorry.
Go.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think another part of what may have been going on, and I always kind of suspected it because was such the talent pool that was available was so talented that I think casting directors would often rotate us in a way.
Sure.
They'd push Moosie forward today because Ike just did, the show like, a month ago or something else like so the same actors weren't doing all the guest starring children's roles all the time. You wear out an audience. They always want to, you have to kind of balance that out. I don't know if that was true, but I kind of had the suspicion that was a part of it sometimes.
I think unless your name is Pamela Ferdinand, I think it's true. Because she actually did every role in her.
Oh, okay.
But no, I agree with that. Pamela came to my mind because I grew up with her. She was good friends with my sister. She used to spend weekends at my house, and I worked with her a lot. But she was like Matthew Labrato. She just cry on it. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I no question. I mean, I believe that they would have to rotate. We just had Brad Savage on this, so let's, bring in somebody else or something along those lines. But also, Jonathan, going back to basically what you're asking, like, I think I never really felt I didn't want to feel threatened by the other handful of actors my age, because I think I had them in a category of people, the only people on the planet who understands my life.
Yeah.
It's different as an adult. Like, talking to you, I've gotten to know you some, and I know, Ike very well, and you all seem to have a genuine fondness for each other. And because you came through that era together as child actors, only you guys know what that was like being a child actor at that time. But it's, to me, like, it's natural to think, like, again, oh my God, Labrato's working again. It's just natural as a kid. That's what I was just curious if it, like, as feeling one way as a child and feeling a different way as an adult.
I don't know. Oddly enough, what I remember is when I'd see one of you guys, booked a role that I remember auditioning for, I remember going, oh, they changed the scene a little bit because I knew the material from the auditions. I wasn't thinking, damn, how come it went to that person? Or that was very few. that I was like, I really, really wanted the role just because of, the substance or whatever, but never, I get it when it went to the other people. I get it. Like Robbie Rist and I have a great friendship for years, and we were definitely up against each other a lot. And I ended up playing John Denver's son in Oh God, and everyone on the planet would assume it would go to Robbie Rist, including me.
Yeah.
And I remember mentioning Robbie to Rob Reiner, the director, and I think Carl Reiner.
Yeah.
I think his answer was kind of, it wasn't a dig to Robbie. It was actually kind of like, well, he's so much like John Denver that it was too on the nose, that he wanted to not let, his audience get taken out of it, because it's like, wow, look, he just wanted to get past that, again, another thing not to take personal, it was the director's choice not to get someone who looked exactly like the dad, for his reasons. But I have a question for Ike. So Ike, have you ever worked with anyone famous? Hang on. It's not coming up. There it is. Have you ever worked?
Yeah, I seem to recall. I have some vague memories of some famous people, and she was definitely among them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to embarrass you. I'll take that off. But I was wondering, Ike, if your Betty Davis experience. Now, you seem to be a little older than I was when I did something, but I worked with Myrna Loy, right? And exactly, right. But I was a kid. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know who Myrna Loy is, but I tell you what, all the grown-ups around here, all the old people, 28-year-olds at the time, all these people are making a big deal out of this woman coming to the set, and I had a couple scenes with her. I didn't know until I got a little older, like, holy crap, I worked with Myrna Loy. Was that at all your experience with Betty Davis?
Yeah, well, I knew who Betty was.
Yeah.
I watched old movies growing up, because that's what syndicated TV was, on the weekends, or and sometimes the networks as well were playing all these old movies. So that was a big part of my entertainment growing up. So I knew who Betty was. Betty also happened to be my grandmother's favorite actress, and she would say it all the time. Dark Victory is my grandmother's favorite movie, and oh my God, Betty Davis and Dark Victory, and
of course.
And so I was extremely aware of her, and also I was very aware of her reputation, because she had a scary reputation for being difficult, being demanding, and there were always stories in the trades and about her, in different entertainment publications. So she's the only person I've ever been nervous about meeting and working with, because I did not know what was going to show up on set. And at the same time, just as an aside, all of Hollywood couldn't figure out why she was doing a Disney movie. It was completely bizarre. I remember the Hollywood Reporter having headline, Betty Davis in a Disney movie ? Or
right.
Something like that. And it turned out she just wanted to do it because she wanted something that her grandchildren could watch, that they could relate to, because she hadn't done anything that they could, and that was her reason.
Okay.
But I was definitely nervous when she showed up, and it got, all of that stuff went out the window just like that. She could not have been warmer towards me.
I love it.
She could not have been more welcoming, and basically saying, I called her Miss Davis. She said, no, you got to call me Betty. We're going to be working very closely together for the next 8 weeks. I can't have you calling me Miss Davis all the time. So she disarmed me completely, but not the crew. I mean, the crew was terrified of her, and she was demanding. And I have said this story often. She was demanding, but not about unreasonable things. She just had an unreasonable way of demanding what she needed. So it'd be, my most famous part of the story is we were working on stage during the whole big stage museum, stagecoach, crazy stuff going on when she's having Tony help her steal the gold bars from inside. And so it was a big chaotic scene, extremely hot, a lot of lights on the soundstage. And we're standing next to each other, and she nudges me. And I went, what? And she goes, water. I need water. Like snapping her fingers. And she was wearing silk gloves, or these gloves on her hands. So it was like thud, thud, thud. It barely made any noise at all. And then she smirked. And all of a sudden, I swear to God, half a dozen to 10 people started scrambling, like falling over themselves, back and forth, trying to get her some water. And the prop master suddenly, he won the race. Okay. He comes running up to her, and he's got this chilled silver goblet in his hand that he very, gingerly hands to her and said, Here's Miss Davis, here's your water. And she says, thank you, dear. Takes it and takes one sip out of it and hands it back to him. And the guy just goes, okay, and he walks off. And she leaned into me and said, that young man is how it's done. And I just went, holy cow, so she knew exactly what she was doing. It was a game to her.
Yeah.
She demanded respect. She got respect. But it's not like she was ever abusive towards anyone or mean in any way. She just carried her stardom like a great big neon sign over her head. And I thought it was incredibly fascinating, and it was a joy to be around. And she was also hilarious. So, that's my big meet Betty Davis story. But
that is so fantastic. I mean, how lucky are we? I mean, that moment right there, how many people got the Betty Davis at that moment? It's real. It wasn't an autograph. As she's walking, you were working with her, and it was a moment, and she turned to you, knowing that you're the future in the business. You'll be acting as you get older. That's how it's done, and that's a gift. I mean, that's awesome, and she wasn't mean at all. I love that.
No, it was. She was fascinating.
I was wondering,
what was Myrna Loy like?
Myrna Loy, oh, she was fantastic. She was in a wheelchair in the scene. The two scenes I was in with her, but I think it's because she was a bit frail at the time. It was a horror film called Ants. It also had another title called It Happened at Lakewood Manor with Suzanne Summers and Barbara Brunell. And it was a big cast, and Myrna Loy, of course. And we shot that up in Vancouver. And I remember people just falling over themselves, in anticipation to Myrna Loy coming in. I'm like, wow. I knew to respect. I mean, you respect everybody, but like that was a big deal. And then I didn't really realize until I got older that I actually worked with Myrna Loy. I have a question. So maybe it's Betty Davis, but like, I'm sure I talked about this or bragged about this when we did our interview. I haven't watched it in quite a while, or do I remember? But I had a moment when I was a kid. I was on Ronan Martin's Laugh-In, and there was some NBC affiliate gala, however you say it, and we were at some fancy pants black tie event. I'm a little kid, and somebody comes and taps on my shoulder and says, "Groucho Marx would like to meet you." And I knew who Groucho Marx was. I mean, I had Channel 50. I had those black and whites, and I would watch them. And he actually asked me for my autograph for his grandson. Right? I don't, it's for his grandson. And that was like I have that, and I have like a John Ritter moment and a Henry Winkler, and people who I idolize, but they're like, no, you're Moosie Drier. I remember, like people turn it around on you, like so surreal. And I felt so unworthy of that. What are your moments like that? Who is like, turn it around and started asking you questions as opposed to you, them?
It's so funny because you signed an autograph for Groucho Marx says, was it his granddaughter or niece or what it was? Anyway,
I believe it was.
I've never had a famous person ask me for my autograph, which I was just like, I just had a pang of jealousy there for a moment. But no, I had two really lovely experiences. One was on the set of the Paramount lot, and I was actually meeting Justine Bateman for dinner while she was shooting Family Ties. We were having a date. We were friendly at the time. We weren't really dating, but we were kind of like just hanging out. So she invited me down for dinner, and so I met her there. And dinner was being like catered on a sound stage next door to their stage, and it was also next door to the Happy Days stage. And the cast of Happy Days is at one table, and Family Ties is over here. And so, you know, we had our food, and we get up to leave and walk outside. And as we're walking down the street, all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, aren't you Ike Eisenman?" And I turn around, and it's Henry Winkler. And I said, "Wow, yeah, I am." And he said, "You were in that TV movie. You starred in that TV movie about graffiti the other night, right? It was on last week." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You are awesome. You are a great actor. I just love your work." And I said, "Well, I pretty much love your work too, man. Thank you so much." You know,
and you are,
yeah. And he went on back inside, and I thought, man, you know, I mean, he chased me down to pay me a compliment, which I was blown away by.
Well, there it is.
And then the other, my other encounter was with oh gosh, why is his name slipping my head? Pee Wee Herman, Paul
Rubens.
Yeah, Paul Rubens. Thank you. I had just come back to LA from shooting Cross Creek in Ocala, Florida. And this is 1982. And kind of during that shoot, we all had upon occasion, a little too much time to spend in our hotel rooms. And thankfully, you know, or at night, thankfully we had access to some cable channels on all of our televisions, and HBO was one of them. And I was sitting there one night, and it was like late, 11 o'clock or something like that. And I realized why even they put this on late. But this show called the Pee Wee Herman Show came on. And I thought, oh my God, this is freaky, because I saw the character, I saw the sets, and it was the little lead in, like, caught my attention immediately. Because I don't know if you remember or know this, but the Pee Wee Herman Show started out as a stage show that ran at the Roxy Theater on Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset next to the Rainbow, yeah.
Yeah, and and it was only a half-hour show, and that's where it ran. So HBO went and recorded it, like the live performance, the stage performance. I sat there riveted to this thing. I thought, who is this guy? My God, this character's incredible. And it was obviously the bawdiest, most inappropriate humor you could possibly imagine. And I freaked out over it. And when I went back to LA, I went to go to the Hard Rock Cafe in Beverly Hills to go have lunch or meet a friend of mine for lunch. I'm walking past a table, and I see a guy sitting there, and I said, Jesus. And I walked up to him, and he was sitting with two friends. And I said, I am so sorry to interrupt you, but are you Pee Wee Herman? And he had he'd let his beard grow out, not a beard, but his facial hair grow out. He was trying to hide. It looked like he was trying to hide his image. Yeah. He was a very soft-spoken, very shy, quiet person, but he nodded and said yes. And I said, I just saw your show on HBO. I said, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I'm blown away. I don't know what you're going to do with it, what's going to happen, but man, I hope you do a ton of other stuff. And he said, thank you very much. And he says, you're one of the best actors I've ever seen. I really like your work too. And I don't know your name. And so we shook hands and just had a moment. And I thought, you know what, those are, like you said, those are those things that you just, I get self-conscious because I was going over the top about him, and he was nobody, and no one knew who he was then. I couldn't believe I recognized him, but to have him again turn back around on me and to have the compliment paid back to me, it was like I got immediately self-conscious. It's like, oh no, no, this is about you, not me.
Because you don't expect that.
Yeah, those are my two big moments.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And talk about a character risk. This Pee Wee Herman that Paul Rubens did, what I mean? That's either you hit or you crash and burn hard because it's such a gamble. One quick moment I'm remembering at the Universal Amphitheater when they used to have the concerts there in the 80s. I was there with my buddies in line for, food or beer or whatever. And this guy turns around and it's Eddie Murphy. He's right in front of us.
Oh,
turns around. And then he turns back to the thing, to the, away from us. And I'm like looking at my friends like, that's Eddie Murphy. And before I knew it, he turns around and goes, Moosie. I'm like, and my three buddies with me, like I was the coolest guy for just that night. And then it wore off, I promise you. But because at the time it was like Trading Places or Beverly Hills Cop or just SNL, like he was huge. We were always reciting his, characters and his lines and stuff like that. Other than that, that's all I got. I mean, Eddie Murphy, but I only have a couple of proud moments like that. I guess it's Groucho Marx and Eddie Murphy. But anyway, wow. So we know now we've established that we are fortunate people to have had.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I do. I run down the list and my wife does all the time because we'll see someone and I'll say, oh, even actors that we see on shows we're watching that looped with, the Mad Dogs, I say, yeah, they worked with us. But yeah, that list is long and I'm really, I want to say proud of it, but yeah, it's amazing. We have both had that incredible opportunity from a very, very young age to be around greatness, on a regular basis. Yeah. And it's rare and special. And I definitely appreciate it very, very, very much,
Well, let me ask you, Ike, are we the guys, the people are eye rolling, like, the guys who won't stop? They're 47 years old and they're talking about their high school football career. Like, are we that
guy? The thing about their high school football career is no one else knows anything about it.
All right.
But everybody knows all about our high school careers. Okay. So I think we're just acknowledging,
Yeah.
It's, but I mean, did you realize as you were growing up how successful you were? Because I have to say this, and this is the only time I've ever done it. When we were going to have you on as our guest, I said, you know what? I've never looked at Moosie's IMDb page. And all of a sudden I did. And again, the pang of jealousy, because you have 2 or 3 more credits than I do in terms of the total. But we ran kind of neck and neck with the amount of work we did. So did you really realize how successful you were growing up?
Well, let me just say, counting is a thing. You count the IMDb credits.
There's a number.
Oh, there is. Okay.
There's a number at the top. There's no counting. No, I'm not that obsessive. I glanced.
I'm playing. I don't know what I knew. I knew that I was a fan of the movies and of television. So when I went to do the Bob Newhart show, I did a fair amount of those episodes, or Ronan Martin's Laughing, and I did guest spots on a lot. Family Ties was one of them. I would like in the middle of rehearsal or on a break, I'd sit around and go, "Oh wow, holy crap, this is it. This is the door that they come out of on Laughing and tell their jokes. And I'm looking behind it, and there's nothing but wooden stairs and." And I remember I just thinking like, this is like, my friends at school are not going to understand this. Like, just being there, not just watching it on television, and then not even just being there. Now you're a part of it. Now you're a character on a show you're a fan of, which is very surreal. It was very, So I understood like, this is unusual. This is crazy.
No,
Yeah.
when you were on, we asked you about Bill Daly, and I can't believe also we did. What was Newhart like?
You mean Bob Newhart himself or the show?
Yeah. No, but himself.
Bob Newhart was just fantastic. And by the way, Erin Murphy, are you familiar with her from Bewitched? She was I blame this, like I'm Dr. Doolittle today. They know I'm on here and they don't pay attention
around that question here. You know, who's hanging out with you?
Yeah, that's Daisy and Claire, and these are her pets that are. So, her and I went to see him a couple years back at the Television Academy. He's 90 something years old. Right. He was quick as a whip. He's still got it. But anyway, back then, Bob Newhart was nobody was as dry and as good as Bob Newhart, in my opinion, as far as comedy timing. You know, he had, I don't know, Jack Benny's even before my time, but like, you know, Bob Hope, Jack Benny, these guys, you know, they had shtick, but Newhart knew how to bring his dry delivery into a sitcom format, and his timing, he would, you know, purposely like stumble over his own words because his character was always a little like, you know, timid. Mm-hmm. It somehow would not interrupt the comedy timing, and it always blew me away. And he was a super, super sweet, generous guy. And after the tapings of the show, you have to pass his dressing room to get to your car, or with my guardian or whoever took me to the show. And they would always have, you know, it was back in the day, everybody smoked and they had, you know, whiskey or on the rocks or whatever after the show to celebrate him and Suzanne Plachette and all of them. And they were never like, all right, yeah, get that kid out there. Moosie, come on in here, you know, and hey, well, good job tonight or whatever. How'd you like it? How'd you think it went? And they'd ask me, you know. At Newhart, he was always very inclusive. And one of my favorite memories is that one episode we did was one of John Ritter's first acting gigs. And he played a waiter at Uncle Yummy's ice cream shop, which was a knockoff of Farrell's, where you embarrass the customers if they ate a lot of ice cream and all that craziness. And during the week, the writers kept writing more and more for this John Ritter guy who wasn't John Ritter yet. I told his wife, Amy, that recently too, and she just loved this. And as the week went on, they just kept adding more for this waiter because he was just so damn funny. It was John Ritter and Newhart. We were all at a booth together in our little ice cream booth on the set. I remember at some point during the rehearsals, he said to all of us, he's like, "You're watching a star get born right now." He meant it. He had the eye. And sure enough, you know, I mean, John Ritter to me was up there with, like, as far as physical comedy as well, not just his timing, but physical comedy. He was up there with Dick Van Dyke, in my opinion. He was he just had it. He was so talented. But Newhart, anyway, the point was that Newhart wasn't about, hey, this guy's upstaging me. He was more about, yeah, right, this is funny. He's good. You're watching a star get born right now. Yeah. Yeah. He was that kind of guy. He's lovely, and he's still around. There's only like 2 or 3 of us from that show still alive, and he's one of them. Fantastic.
Him.
Yeah. So he's going to be on next month.
Oh gosh. You know who I could approach is Peter Bonners. Actually, I see him at the Directors Guild on occasion. Jerry, the dentist. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. I have to ask now. You know, you don't have to answer. I didn't have this written down because of what you said, and I know Ike's answer to this, and you know he doesn't have to repeat it there. Now, because of a lot of people that we've had on shows have disappointed me, not just by them, I'm saying by telling me about encounters that they've had with people that I love. And I know Ike had like an encounter with someone, like, you know, from a huge film. He doesn't have to say it if he doesn't want. That was not the nicest to him. Do you ever encounter someone that you were like huge fan of in all your shows, and like when you got to meet them in person, like, oh, really? This is who this person is?
I think that's for you, Moosie.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to.
If Ike wants to say his, he can.
I can just say that I worked with Henry Fonda, and I don't think he was too fond of children. No. It's a bad joke. But he wasn't super warm and cozy. I can say that. He wasn't mean, but I remember thinking, oh, this is cool, you know.
Mhm.
But he was a little more like, you know, dialogue. Okay, I'm not talking to you anymore. Like when the director would say cut, like he was, you know, and I was a fan. But also this is terrible to say, but because of the deceased, and I respect her very much. But when I was on the Bob Newhart show, Mary Tyler Moore had like all these spin-off shows, you know, and I did Doc, and Phyllis was a show, you know, with Cloris Leachman.
Mm-hmm.
And at one episode I did on Phyllis was this little con artist kid, right? And at the tag, which is the end of the show and very, very end, they had my character come in and do a little bit or whatever, bump, and credits, right? So the show ended on my character. And she wasn't happy about that. I remember there was like a, you know, network read through and all that. And she said in front of everybody, me included, you know, I don't see, the show's called Phyllis. I don't see why you're giving, you know, a happy, funny out to the child here. You know, but that's actually not a knock on her as much as her, it's not even a knock. I was surprised though. It was a little more like, you know, I'm always about like Newhart, you know, it was about best idea wins, you know, what's best for the show, what's funnier, you know, it's not ego, not, you know, show should end on me, on the title of the show. I remember that surprising me. I remember that I couldn't even believe that was an option, even if you're the star of the show, to like go to the producers of the network and say, no, change it. And they did.
Yeah.
We just had someone else on who said something similar with Cloris Leachman. And I'm trying to remember who said it. Do you remember this, Ike, or no?
No, I don't actually.
That Cloris Leachman was dying to get off the show that she was on to go do something else.
Oh, well, I know she did Facts of Life for a while later on.
You know, but that's just
that's not even. Probably shouldn't even have brought that up because, you know, she's probably just protecting her brand, her career, that show. She really wanted it to survive, and that might not be fair for me to say.
Well, this was not a bad situation with someone. It was just very surprising to me. I did an episode of the Jeffersons, and I was super excited about it because I loved that show, and you know, my episode was highly controversial, and I don't need to get into the subject matter, even though it was like written, it was brilliantly written and handled really, really well. It's just like so uncomfortable to talk about. But getting to work with that cast and Sherman Hemsley first and foremost I was just totally excited. And it was the strangest thing because I've never seen and I've only done a couple of sitcoms, and they're so different from, as you know, Moosie, from other types of shows, because like you do your table reads and then your rehearsals, and then it's up on its feet and you block, and then you do camera blocking, and then all of a sudden you're ready to you know, tape 2 shows in one night. That's the big conclusion of the week. But Sherman Hemsley, I swear to God, did not know what was going on, and no one ever seemed to feel strange about it at all. He slept through everything. It's like he slept through the table read and kind of woke up and come back from lunch, and yeah, he'd kind of do a read, and then he'd get up and kind of seemingly was learning his blocking, but I couldn't tell. And everything it was just like, and I thought, oh my God, we're never going to make it. He's never going to be able to get this thing on its feet by Friday night. But man, all of a sudden Friday night happens, that audience is there, the cameras start rolling, and he was bam, 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 bam. He just pulled everything out of nowhere. And everyone else was, you know, doing their job, but no one ever had a problem with it. So I got the impression that was just how he worked. He saved everything for the taping, and he didn't miss a line. He didn't miss a cue.
Oh, wow.
He was hilarious.
That's
And
pretty remarkable.
I couldn't see him. There was nothing funny about him all week long. Lines out, and then
Yeah.
boom, he just walked in on the night, and I thought, man,
Right.
that was incredible. It
And
was
you,
kind of the opposite of what Jonathan's talking about. It was a surprising thing. Yeah.
yeah. And you being
Sorry, you were going to say
doing
something?
a guest star on the Jeffersons didn't know.
Yeah.
And the people who are working every week on that show, they're in their mind going, that's okay. He'll come around on tape night and he'll knock it out of the park.
They obviously knew, so it was not a problem for anybody.
Well, the sitcom format, which I hate to say is kind of a lost format. I wish they would bring back more multi-camera stuff, but good ones, because when it's not good, it's just not good. But you Monday through Friday, it's the first 3 days are just such light rehearsals, and the script changes so much.
Yeah.
So he learned, and I think Bob Newhart and a couple other people learned, like when they started renegotiating contract, let's go in on Tuesday. We let's trim a day off of my work week because we don't need it. We go in and it's a whole page 1 rewrite, when you come in on day 3 or 2. So why go in on Monday when that we're not doing anything that's going to look anything like the show?
Yeah.
So maybe he was just kind of like, wake me when, the audience starts to come in. And then
Exactly.
it's crazy. Isn't it crazy that people have that gift? He was listening and he was paying attention all along, or he wouldn't have been able to come through and not skip a beat on the blocking and the dialogue on tape. He was listening. He is there. He just doesn't want to give anything yet for his own process.
It blew me away. I've never seen anything like it in my entire career. Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yeah, that's probably for different reasons, but what fascinates me is Tony Bennett towards the last few years of he apparently was really suffering from I guess dementia, Alzheimer's, something horrible and sad that is not fun to talk about. But as soon as he can perform, as soon as the song starts, boom.
Yeah, that's right. I remember hearing about that. Yeah,
it's remarkable.
Yeah.
The human brain is just remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ike, do you think that there'll ever be any interest in making a documentary for you, or so people?
There is an audio component of the show too. I just want to say for people that just do the listening, the Dear Ike is now behind Moosie. The Dear Ike documentary is now behind Moosie.
Oh yeah, I pulled up a couple backgrounds, which I should have done from the start, and you wouldn't see these dogs crawling on the seat behind me.
I've been enjoying the dogs.
This documentary was so enjoyable for me to watch. You have no idea. And what an honor, and how cool were you about meeting this guy and finally, and just accepting it and embracing what was happening, that he was making this documentary and that he was trying to get a hold of you. Did you find was that a big compliment to you? Was it embarrassing when this thing came about? How do you feel about that?
This is the main reason I did it was because one of the producers is one of my oldest friends in Hollywood, Andy Steinland. He's very good friends with Dion, and he's interviewed in the documentary. And he explained all this. It all sounded rather odd to me, but it was one of those things where when you trust the creative judgment of someone you're close to, and they say, no, he just said to me, this is really going to be a beautiful documentary. I promise you, you will not be embarrassed. It will not be a waste of your time. So I thought, why not? I will do this. It's a fascinating story. I didn't really understand all the ins and outs of it because I had purposely chosen to stay to distance myself from it and just do the interview and whatever Dion, the director and creator of it, wanted me to do on the day that I was there for the interview. And I thought, you know what, this was somebody else's boat. I'm going to jump in and let him take it where he wants to take it. And I have to say, I was extremely pleased with how it came out. I mean, it turned out to be an incredible story, very much an incredible story. The only thing I was embarrassed about was that I never saw one of his fan letters. It's a documentary is about how he's, this young person was trying to reach out to me through fan mail, and I never responded to him. And the thing was, in jumping to the end, I never saw any of his fan letters, because there was a period of time where I had to stop reading my fan mail because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And it was not like I got thousands of letters a week or anything like that, but I got enough of an abundance of correspondence from people wanting autographs and wanting me to send pictures and wanted to talk to me, wanted to be my pen pal. And it became very stressful for me as a teenager. It just was stressful because I, maybe didn't necessarily handle my own, I'll say fame instead of notoriety, because it wasn't notoriety, my own level of celebrity very well. It was very uncomfortable to me. And so having people write to me that I had to write back at the same time I'm trying to, do my work and go on auditions and do schoolwork and live a life was too much. And I finally just said, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And that's the only thing that I was embarrassed about. But actually, had I connected with him in any way, he wouldn't have ever had the story. And it turns out, it's a really, really good story.
Right.
And,
I loved it. And the only reason I asked if one of the options was that it embarrassed you is because I know you're very humble and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you didn't get the letters, because again, we wouldn't have this documentary. Dear Ike, lost letters to a teen idol. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's again, we've said this on our shows before. I'm not exactly sure when this one's going to post, but it's actually screening this month of the month of June for Pride Month again on PBS, because it got picked up by PBS.
I love it.
And all over the country. And so it's getting some really good exposure. A lot of people are getting a chance to see it. And
I mentioned it. I gave kudos to Andy. I know the producer. I've run into him from time to time. I don't know him well, but I thanked him for that documentary and his work.
It was very well done.
I had somebody named his name's David Ortiz, really nice guy who I still hear from. He was like the one fan who kept writing, and I don't know if he's going to see this or not, but my mom used to return some of my fan mail, because it's easy to miss. They would come in paper, obviously, back in the day, off a stagecoach, but there was one, like I had someone not like your guy, but pretty interesting, and hopefully he never really took it personally that you weren't getting his mail,
Yeah. I hope not.
I think in my life I've written one fan letter to someone. That was it, to Stan Lee. That was the only time I've ever written.
Oh yeah, did you hear back?
I got a form letter from Marvel. I remember. Nothing. So
yeah, it wasn't from Stan.
No, nothing. Nothing. It was just kind of like thank you for writing, and that's it.
Right. Ike, what do you have in the works? What's going on? What as soon as we're off with this, and you have some time that freed up, and you do this, what's going on? What do you got in your future?
Well, I'm right in the middle of a major edit of my memoir, and working on my book proposal with my agent, and we're going to be submitting it to editors within the next few months. And that is a very all-encompassing process. Yeah, and so that's really what I'm investing a lot of time in, and I don't see any reason why the world can't know this, but Jonathan and I are co-writing screenplays together. We've completed one, which we're really excited about, and starting another one. So I'm investing in a lot of personal projects, writing projects, because it's a newfound passion that I've developed since actually writing my memoir. So that's just been great fun and kind of a whole new creative experience that I never knew that I would like, because the last thing I ever wanted to do was write a freaking book, especially a memoir. And it just always seems so self-indulgent and self-centered and all of that. But actually it was a rather incredible process, and just yeah, to go on a little bit more about it, it turned out to be a tremendous source of personal therapy for me, because
I love it.
I am, I'm one of the, you and I, amongst a number of our friends, survived our childhoods fairly well intact. Some of our contemporaries did not. And, one of the things I have had to come to grips with is, even if you have a great childhood career, it still has an impact on your adult life in some way. And mine certainly did. And I could never put it together, what it meant, the work, what the work did meant to me. I could never put it in order in any meaningful way in my mind. And I have to say, this is one of the great things about IMDb. I was so amazed, shocked, and grateful when that website first went up on the internet, and that was a long time ago. And all of a sudden, all these people were, for all the actors, not just me, but every actor out there was, and directors and writers and musicians, and all this data was being filtered in. And all of a sudden, I had this one page I scrolled up and down where my entire career was there. And I was just like, holy cow. Some of these, I remember everything, but trying to establish for myself a cause and effect for how my career spilled out. What the one thing that led to another, and the experiences I had, because my memories are detailed and vivid, going way, 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 way back. And I just thought, when I finally really dug down and did the serious writing, because I spent years writing versions of my story and that didn't work. And my lovely wife was one of the first ones to turn to me and say, Ike, you're not in this book anywhere, because I just didn't want to talk about myself.
Right.
And then when I finally had to take the chance and do the hard work and then put it all together, it turned out to be an amazingly therapeutic process. And I was really proud of the storytelling, and I was so excited to be able to share the stories, because I have huge sections in my book about Escape to Witch Mountain, and so many things happened during the shooting of that film, and being able to work on the Disney lot and see parts of the Disney studios that some people have never seen, even people who work there have never seen. And to get a chance to talk about Disney from the 70s perspective and what it was like to be there. This is just yet another story. Kim Richards and I were doing a press junket for new DVD releases of the two Witch Mountain films right after the premiere for Race to Witch Mountain. And so we were on live television from like 5 o'clock in the morning, until 8 or 9 o'clock or something like that, going from ABC affiliate to ABC affiliate to ABC affiliate, sitting in a room together, being asked questions about the Witch Mountain films. And I found that Kim was kind of floundering. She was having a hard time coming up with things that she could remember, stories to tell. And I was just like, blah, and I kept trying to defer to her to make it fair. And then we finished this whole thing. And at the end of it, when Kim and I said goodbye, she hugs me and she says, how do you remember all that stuff? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. And my heart broke. Literally, my heart broke for her. because I had such an overwhelmingly incredible experience making that movie. And I remember all about it. And I said to myself, I'm going to have to write this stuff down because this is all going to disappear. And I've heard other people who've written memoirs about their careers say the same thing. Haley Mills, who I just finished reading her memoir. She said the same thing. She said, these are stories about Disney. These are stories about making of these great Disney movies that no one knows but her.
Yeah.
And if she passes, they're gone forever.
Yeah.
So I thought, if nothing else, I really wanted to be able to put down what I sort of, in distancing myself from it yet again, but a historical document about the business. What was it like? What was it like going to the unemployment office? Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
I mean, what
standing
a
in line, they give you cash in an envelope or something.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's like these. I think these fascinating things about being a child actor of the 70s is what I wanted to express in it. So I've gone on too long about my project, but yeah, that is
no.
my primary focus right now. And it's something that I'm very proud of, that I think people are going to really enjoy, whether or not you're a fan of me. It stands alone as a document about the business, from that period of time.
You should be proud. I'm so happy that you have this revelation of, I'm going to get over myself and I'm going to share these valuable memories and moments. Like Kim, unfortunately, doesn't remember, and they'll be gone forever. Like you said, when we're gone, you got to pass these on. The Betty Davis moment, even if it's just a moment, and I know you had more. You worked with her more than just the moment, but that is golden to me. Like that.
Yeah.
And it's not in the starstrucky kind of way, just in the educational way. Like, you have Bruce Lee just told you how to throw a kick. You know what I mean? It's fantastic. And not everybody gets that. And it's easy to get lost on me, but I love that you that you have that you're realizing, no, I'm going to share it because
Well, in case anyone's listening, Ike also has some fantastic Star Trek II Wrath of Khan stories in there as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So.
I do. It isn't just about Witch Mountain.
Right.
No, there's a lot of
awesome,
a lot of stories in there. And on the one hand, I remember so many things, and then you realize what you don't remember until you dig in and start going through the memories. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, that happened. Oh my God, that's right. Oh my God, that's right. So yeah, it's a fun examination of a lot of personalities in the business, a lot of them, almost all of it great, but really what it's like to work with these people. Like you said, the laundry list of famous people that we've had a chance to spend intimate time with, It's rare and incredible, and it's a different perspective, especially when you're a child, going through it. So
I remember seeing you on the big screen when I watched Star Trek, like when it was out, and I was there one night. I think it was the Sherman Oaks, not the Galleria, but the other Sherman Oaks one, like on Van Nuys near Ventura Boulevard, and my friends and I would go to the movies. That's what you do on Friday night or whatever. And I remember there's Ike, Ike. Only in LA, people are actually pointing to the screen about their friend they just had, biology class with last, but that was a little old. You were roughly how old were you when you did Star Trek?
I'm trying to think. That was 80. There was 82. Well, yeah, it was released in 82. So 81. I was 19.
Yeah, you weren't a little kid anymore. I'm like, there it is, man. There's Ike. Yeah. I love it.
What's funny is back in those days, there's no social media, there's no spoilers or anything like that, so you don't know things like who's doing what. Maybe for you guys it's different, but as a fan, you weren't able to get all these things.
Exactly.
Who's doing what. So I remember it's like you having the same reaction, Moosie. Like, I saw it in the theater too, and it comes on and said, "Oh my God, the Witch Mountain kid is in this." So I had the same exact reaction as that, because you don't know anything.
Yeah, there wasn't social media and all that stuff, but not only that, but like I have a feeling I wasn't out I wasn't telling my friends, "Hey, watch Thursday night at 8, 9 Central," or anything crazy like that. I wanted to be. I loved the process of acting, but I just really wanted to be playing baseball and doing things, but I didn't want to boast about any of it. And I had friends that would actually get mad at me because we couldn't record at that time. It's like, I heard why didn't you tell me you were on whatever, somebody saw it. We've been hanging out and you didn't even mention it to me. And because I didn't, so Ike was probably like that too. Like, we weren't exactly self-promoting. Ike, I'm sure, was more humble than I was.
Not at all.
But when you talk about Kim and your memories and all that stuff, I recently realized, so I've been proud of myself. Oh, I have a vivid memory for so many years. And I do, from even when I was little. But in recent times, I realized, no, not necessarily across the board. I saw a scene or two that I was in. Somebody sent me a link, YouTube or something. And I'm like, nope, I have zero recollection of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember maybe doing the show, that scene, that dialogue, what I was doing. Nope. No idea. Yeah, it's weird because other times, other gigs, I can describe it, perfectly. Yeah. But some things I'm like, nope. There was a scene where I was playing Mickey Rooney in the Judy Garland story. And a friend texted me, when you video the TV screen, like a video. And he said, hey, look what I'm watching right now. And it was a scene with me and Andrea McArdle doing Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland in a TV movie. And don't remember shooting it. Don't remember that dialogue. Remember some of the other scenes. Jackie Cooper directed, which I worked with a few times, and Michael Parks was in it. Donna Pescow. I remember a lot, but this one scene that he sent me, I'm like,
wow,
nope. I really had to know. Must have blacked it out. I don't know, blocked it out somehow. Anyway,
yeah.
Well, I don't think anyone has anything else, but before we do go, I just want to take a minute again, recognize Ike. I know we're still going to be speaking and everything, but I do want to say how much fun it truly has been to do the show with you. And sometimes, like I said, I was a fan as a kid, so I just like, wow, I'm doing this with someone I watched on the movie screen. So it's like, so this was truly a lot of fun. And as for Moosie, the same. I want to say sincerely, I look forward to doing this with you. And God's honest truth, there was only one person that came to mind right away that to ask, and I'm grateful that you said yes. So I thank you, Ike, and I look forward to working with you, Moosie.
Oh man, well listen, I got to say I've had a blast, and my friendship with you, Jonathan, and working relationship is top notch. And I have told Jonathan this several times, and Moosie, you probably will get this. It's very hard to work with people, creative people, and have it last. And I've never had a very successful partnership with anyone before, and I do have that with Jonathan, and I value it greatly. And yeah, we're going to do all kinds of fun stuff, and you guys are going to kill it. I think this show is going to be great. I can't wait to see who you have on and hear about it. And I have appreciated all that we've done on it. It's been a real blast for me too.
Well, as a viewer of Pop Culture Retro, I just want to thank you because you guys work so well together, and I've enjoyed all the episodes. And Jonathan, I think I need to be a better listener. I won't. It's because it was Ike. I spoke a lot today and wanted to ask him questions.
I told him the same thing with you. No one cares what I have to say. I'm just like,
no, of course
take this.
But Ike, it's weird. All the best to you. We're gonna see. I think the three of us. I don't even know if we could talk about it. We're also collaborating on something, a book that will.
Yes.
I guess we're not talking about yet. So it's not like we're saying goodbye to each other, but but thank you, Ike, for everything, and for all your insight. And I'm sure I'm saying that for all the people who've watched these.
Well, for the last time with Ike here, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenman and Moosie Drier. And I hope that you'll continue to support and tune in. We have a lot of fun episodes coming up. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.